Hello, I'll be talking about the three major regional human rights courts: the Inter-American Court of Human Rights, the European Court of Human Rights, and the African Court of Peoples and Human Rights. In the Inter-American Court, I'll be talking in the four languages of the Organization of American States, that is English, French, Portuguese, and Spanish. In the European Court, I'll be talking English and French, and in the African Court, the four languages of the African Union, the English, French, Arabic, and Portuguese. So, the Inter-American Court of Human Rights was established in 1979, May 22nd exactly, 1979, to enforce the Inter-American Convention on Human Rights, which enforces the basic rights all people have in the Western Hemisphere. Some of these include they're not very different from the Universal Declaration, honestly. Right to freedom of speech, assembly, petition, no torture, no discrimination, and etc. Then what's unique about the Inter-American Convention is that it also includes the right to name. Anyway, so the Inter-American Convention Court was established to have a binding effect on this regime. So, there are certain cases which I feel can be important to enforce them. The first comes immediately to mind is Guatemala. Some of you may have seen my video in English and Spanish on the subject of women's rights in that country, where women are being tortured, raped, murdered, left, right, and center. In fact, the word for that is femicide, which just like genocide. Genocide is race, nationality, or religion. Femicide is killing of women. Vitricide is killing of men, by the way. Anyway, so I really wish that many non-governmental organizations in Guatemala, as well as intergovernmental organizations in Guatemala, force the Inter-American Court of Human Rights to stop this, what's going on in Guatemala. Second, right next door in Guatemala is El Salvador, and their horrible anti-abortion law, which basically prohibits, is a law that is beyond insane. It is so insane that if you miscarry in there, it constitutes abortion, and it's an incarcerable offense for 30 years. Obviously, this is insane. How do you deal with rape or sexual violence, which is also very high in that country? And another thing is Venezuela's retirement from the court, which I think is outrageous simply because I think the new president, Nicolas Maduro, doesn't want to hold accountable for the violence that the Venezuelan government has implemented on peaceful protesters in that country. Another, of course, is Cuba. Cuba, which has, imprisoned opposition leaders to the Castro regime and silenced peaceful assembly there, and as well for a long time restricted freedom movement outside of Cuba. And then there's Brazil, which has many issues with indigenous rights, and basically taking away their land and basically developing them for private concern instead of the development for the benefit of the people. And of course, the residual effects of racism in Brazil, because Brazil, I believe, was the last country in the Western Hemisphere to abolish slavery in 1889, and legally. Because slavery illegally still continues in Brazil, as it does in many other countries. And therefore, I think Brazil should be investigated as well for those two reasons. Finally, we can't forget the big bad bully in the area, the United States of America, with operations in Guantanamo Bay, the CIA torture program, and attacks on peaceful protesters against police brutality in Ferguson, in Cleveland, which is also subject of another video I made. So, those are the major issues I think the Inter-American Court of Human Rights should enforce.